Yeah, we're now very close, very close. We could bring some of these hostages home very soon, but I don't want to get into the details of things because nothing is done until it's done.
Well, Biden's at least right about that. Nothing is done until it's done, and these hostage negotiations can absolutely fall apart at any given moment. However, there have been increasing reports that a deal is imminent. I want to be clear, it seems like it's imminent, but we have been hearing that for the last several days. So we'll see where this all heads, but for now, there is no deal in place. With that said, keeping that in mind, here's what we do know about the tentative deal so far, and this is according to reporting from Axios. So they report that according to the tentative deal, Hamas would release 50 Israeli women and children who are being held in Gaza. In exchange, Israel would release around 150 Palestinian prisoners, mostly women and children. The hostage exchange would take place during a 4-day ceasefire. So the tentative agreement makes no mention of a permanent ceasefire. It would just be a 4-day ceasefire, notably to do the hostage exchange in a safer environment without all the aerial bombardments taking place. Additionally, Israel would allow 300 aid trucks to enter Gaza per day. Are they not merciful? Now, there's also a possibility of a second phase in this deal. And it would be similar to the first phase. Hamas hostages would be swapped for Palestinian prisoners at a ratio of 3-to-1. And the hostage exchange would once again take place during a ceasefire. But there are a few wrinkles in the deal. Here's one of them. Netanyahu's office noted that any deal is subject to appeal from the victims' families. An important point of procedure under Israeli law, to the extent that any deal involves a prisoner exchange, or families of victims of terrorists within Israeli jails have a right to appeal to the Supreme Court against their release, and they would have 24 hours to do so. And it's unclear what would happen to the hostage deal if an appeal were granted by the Supreme Court. And here's another issue, according to NBC News. According to a senior Israeli official, Israel is currently only negotiating for its citizens and says that other countries will have to negotiate for their own terms with Hamas. Dual nationals, those who hold Israel citizenship along with other countries, are included in Israel's deals, the official said. So in other words, if there are American citizens who were kidnapped by Hamas, Israel is showing absolutely no interest. In fact, they're vocalizing they have no interest in including them in these negotiations with Hamas. They need to fend for themselves, which I find interesting when it comes to American taxpayer money being funneled to the IDF, the Israeli military. They're all ears when it comes to helping to release ththose hostages from Hamas. You guys can deal with it on your own. Fascinating.
So look, the Americans are going to get released because America is also part of these negotiations. They have a ton of leverage, etc. Israel's mainly saying, hey, the Thai workers that got kidnapped, we don't care about you guys at all. You go deal.
That's also
gross. You go deal with it on your own. What do we care? I mean, we don't care about the hostages, period. We've been dropping bombs on their heads the entire time. We haven't got, like, all the Hamas guys are in the tunnels. We show you the tunnels are completely unaffected. So we're just killing people, civilians, and if you happen to be the Thai hostages have to be part of them or any other country, we don't care. We haven't cared the whole time.
We just want the Israeli family members of the hostages to get off our backs already.
Yeah,
they're really getting on our nerves. Okay, that's the sense I get, and I have evidence to prove why I think that.
Yeah, so we're gonna get to that in a second. And so as I get frustrated at Israel being called a democracy, which it definitely isn't. It is keeping 5 million prisoners in the West Bank and Gaza Strip, but at least there is a democracy within the citizens of Israel, right? So and there's a vibrant culture of disagreement, vocalizing your opinions, dissent, and that's great. And I love that inside Israel. I wish they would have applied it to the Palestinians, but so that's a different issue. But so within Israel, everybody's mad at Netanyahu. Well, I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people are, and including the hostage families, because he's shown no interest in the hostages. And by the way, this is, I mean, look, I don't know what kind of pressure Israel and America put on Hamas. My guess is Qatar put a lot of pressure on Hamas, but this is a great deal for Israel. Why? Well, first of all, remember, Israel is returning 3 times as many hostages. Well, that sounds like, well, Hamas is getting a great deal. They're getting 3 times as many people. Wait a minute. Israel's returning hostages? And they're all women and children. Why did Israel take women and children as hostages in the first place? And how come nobody ever complained about that? And so what if they return them? Israel can go back and kidnap them the next day. They have all the power in the world. And why do you think Israel every once in a while rounds up Palestinian women and children? So they can keep them as hostages for leverage in situations like this. Oh, you took some hostages, you're terrible, Hamas. How dare you do the thing we've been doing all along? Well, we'll go take more, so what? So Israel loses nothing from this. They could take 5 times as many Palestinian hostages the very next day. And the world wouldn't even notice. And America wouldn't complain, nobody would complain, right? And then one other reason why it's a great deal for Israel is Hamas is not getting a permanent ceasefire. Israel's not withdrawing. They're just gonna pause for a couple of days. And they have said in the deal, then we're gonna go back to bombing the living crap out of your civilians.
Right.
I'm sorry, I meant Hamas, who I can't get inside the tunnels. So there's no, I can't believe they're gonna do this deal. So, but look, I want the hostages released on both sides. So I'm thrilled, great, take the deal, right? But man, this is an unbelievably good deal for Israel.
Since the beginning of this war, Israeli family members of the hostages have been deeply concerned and have disagreed with the IDF's bombardment of the Gaza Strip. They don't agree with what they're doing. They're also obviously concerned about their loved ones, their well-being, their safety. And so with that in mind, they have been increasingly protesting the Israeli government. They've been increasingly confrontational with Israeli officials and authorities. And so let's hear what they had to say to Israeli politicians during a parliamentary panel about a proposed death penalty for captured Palestinian militants. With that in mind, let's watch the video, see how it all went down.
תראו אותנו כאילו זו אחותכם, כאילו כפיר הוא הילד שלכם או הנכד שלכם. האם הייתם מסתכנים בלעשות משהו שעכשיו יכול לפגוע בחיים שלו? תעמידו אותם לדין, תעלו את הדיון הזה שוב. אבל הוא לא כאן, ובגלל זה יכול להיות שהוא גם לא יחזור.
הוא לא להקשיב והוא לא לכבד את המשפחות שלנו. הוא לא לכבד את 1,400 האנשים שנהרגו. הוא לא לכבד את המשפחה שלי ששרדה תופת. הוא לא לכבד את סבתא שלי. זה לא לכבד.
הילדה שלי בבית, לא לרצות שום אויב. נורא פשוט. אני רוצה את הבת שלי בבית. הדיון הזה להבנתי ולהשקפתי מסכן חיים של יהודים. ובמקום לדבר על מוות, שזה המילה שהכי הרבה שמעתי פה סביב השולחן הזה, תדברו על החיים. 239 חיים.
So that confrontation continued even further after the panel had ended. Itamar Ben-Gvir appeared to portray the highly confrontational session as harmonious. In a post on X, Ben-Gvir posted a photo of him hugging one of the relatives along with the caption, "We love and embrace the families of the abductees." And then Gil Dickman, who is the man who appears in the photo, who's being hugged by Ben-Gvir in the image, wrote a scathing response, "Take your hands off of me." Dickman, whose cousin Carmel Gat was taken on October 7th, said, "My look here says it all. I told you don't hug me. You hugged anyway. I told you don't put our loved ones at risk. Still, you took a risk, all for the picture." Okay. Dickman also accused Ben-Gvir of having no limits. "Everyone sees that you are making a circus about the blood of our families," Dickman added. "It's not too late, stop." And there was one other family member who, he made a statement about, you guys are so obsessed with killing Arabs. How about you save Israelis? You get what I'm saying? And that was such a powerful moment and such a true statement, because rather than being so hyper focused on killing people in the Gaza Strip, how about you actually spend a little bit of time placing some energy behind getting our hostages back?
I love these families so much. First of all, remember, they're the innocent civilians who were victimized by Hamas in the first place. They're the biggest victims in all of this inside Israel. And so the fact that the right-wing government of Israel doesn't even care about them is disgusting. They're just using them as pawns to be able to do the land grab and the massacres inside Gaza. So this is the Jewish culture that I love so much. You defy authority, you question authority, you dissent, and you argue for cherishing life instead of cherishing death. So I love everything that those families said, and they speak for all of us. And remember, Israel is not a monolith. There are great, there's a whole variety of people there. There's left-wingers, right-wingers, there's people in favor of peace, people in favor of war. Right now, because of the attack of Hamas, and unfortunately the culture changing over all of these years within Israel, there is a mindset of, no, they're all anti-Semitic, and they're all violent, the Palestinians, so we have to show them the only thing they understand, which is violence. And don't pretend that the right-wingers in Israel don't think that. They 1,000,000,000% believe that. And all they have shown the Palestinians is disdain, lack of humanity, death, destruction, okay? So you have to get rid of your right-wing government. Yep. Right-wing governments all across the world are driving us to war, death, and hatred. Let your better angels, like those families, win the day so that we cherish everyone's life and get those hostages back. But the monsters, the absolute monsters that run the right-wing government of Israel don't care. All they see is blood. And they want to kill more and more innocent Palestinian civilians. And I think that their actions here have been clear, not just now, but for decades. The Israeli press has shown over and over again how much Netanyahu has helped Hamas. And part of the reason he did that was to split the Palestinians, and because he didn't want to do a peace deal with Mahmoud Abbas and the Palestinian Authority. They have no excuse for not doing a peace deal with them. There's no terrorism coming out of there, and there hasn't been for a long, long time. But they want to occupy them, and they want to grab more land and put more settlers in. So they encouraged, Netanyahu encouraged Hamas, funded Hamas. It's Israeli press that's covering this. Yep. And after he built up Hamas, and then Hamas attacks and kills his own civilians, he still doesn't care about his own civilians. He doesn't care about his own hostages because they got to grab that land. This is not an Israeli way of thinking, and it is definitely not a Jewish way of thinking. It is a right-wing way of thinking. Do not let these monsters define who you are.
If you enjoyed this video, that's because of our members. They make us independent, they make us strong, and they make us honest. Become a member today by hitting the join button below.